of. We caught up with Kevin Warren, and here is his perspective now. There were times, and we all understand the dynamics of facility development these days, and it's more than just increasing property taxes, spending $20 million, making it a public works project, having baseball and football in it, making it round and say, go play. It is much different, and this is for lack of a better term after it was described here, to me, it's a generational icon.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I think it's a phenomenal public-private partnership. It really shows that private business, private big business, the government can come together to do special things for the community, for kids, and for the various constituents involved. And you're right. This is a complicated project because it needed to be designed in a manner that it would stand the test of time, not only from an operational standpoint, but also just from an integrity and community standpoint.
We all understand from a general perspective politics is fleeting, and we all understand that everybody has an opinion on stadium development, arena development, from the color of the seats to where the location should be to who takes care of the overruns and anything in between. The Vikings hadn't performed very well in the field for a while, and there were also some behavioral issues, which in Minnesota don't work very well.
Right.
So you had a lot to overcome,
basically,
and you did.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is, and it really is, all the credit has to go to ownership. I mean, they've been supportive from the day that they bought the team and closed on the deal back in 2005. They provided all of us the resources financially and support. It's one thing for some owners to provide financial resources, but to provide financial resources and the support and the encouragement and to accept our ideas on this. And that's what really became the kind of the economic energy behind this project. And so you're right. I think things are falling into place. This is a great project. It's good for us to come together. The community will use it, and we hope we win a lot of football games here and one day can bring a Lombardi trophy back here to this building.
Isn't it amazing how the enhancement of a brand makes people feel differently and better about the team on the field, and then on the field all of a sudden things happen differently that you didn't even expect. It happens in a lot of different sports, and we've all seen that. The important thing I think people ought to also remember is that this is not just a football stadium. You've already had AC Milan as we tape this. You're having Luke Bryan. You're going from Luke Bryan to Metallica, which certainly pushes the ends of music. But it's designed for baseball. You have a Final Four that's committed for 2019. You'll be in the Super Bowl February 4th, 2017, or you'll be around it, and you'll have the X Games. This is truly an entertainment facility, not just a sports venue.
Absolutely. I mean, you think that there will be some activity that will go on here on a daily basis, and all the way from weddings to bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and major concerts, major soccer games, high school football, baseball, our games, the X Games. Like you said, we have the Final Four for 2019, the Super Bowl in 2018. There are just a lot of excellent events, and I think what it shows is that this building was created in a way that it will cater to various groups, and people will be able to enjoy it at different levels, and so that's what we're excited about.
How important was the downtown urban development regeneration aspect from Target on one side to you guys on the other side?
I think very important. I mean, you think about it, there's been $1 billion that's been invested in this area, and it's changed the complexity of it. I mean, there was a great picture in the Star Tribune a couple months ago where it showed a picture of downtown of where it was before this project began. But if you look what's happened now with the park and the commons area, the condominium, the apartment development, just the energy in this area of town is outstanding. So I think being in an urban setting was critical to the success of this project. And Rick, what's interesting about this is really it was 31 months ago that we played our last football game here. That's just, that's astonishing to think we actually played a football game that short a period of time in the same location. Because if you look at the most recent stadiums, whether it's Indianapolis or Dallas or the New York Giants or San Francisco, they're built in a different location, which is much easier. So as I tell people all the time, I mean, we really had two stadium projects going on. One getting ready to go play at the University of Minnesota, but to be able to tear the Metrodome down and then rebuild it here and have it ready to operate within 30 months is nothing short of a miracle.
We'll get back to that miracle in a minute, but it's actually 2.5 because you got a training facility that's just opened up as well. Tell us about TCO.
Yeah, so we're excited. I mean, we knew, just like you said, anytime you want to rebuild and reshape a brand, one of the areas that you can start in is one, building an outstanding stadium, but then also building a place that you practice and spend most of your days. You think about it here, the Vikings, I mean, we'll play at least 10 games here and hopefully a couple more playoff games a year here. We have an excellent young football team under the leadership of Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman. But in order to round that out, to really get us ready for the next 30, 40, 50 years, is that we needed to develop a practice facility. So we purchased 200 acres in Eagan, Minnesota, which is probably 12 miles from downtown. It's the former Delta Airlines, Northwest Airlines site. And so the topography of that land is beautiful. It's rich. It has lakes. So we broke ground on that last Tuesday. And then we also announced a 20-year naming rights partnership with Twin Cities Orthopedics, which will allow us to develop the best environment, best in class, a world-class environment for our players, staff, and coaches, because for the last 2 years we've had our employees in 3 different locations, out at Winter Park where we currently are, another building across the street, and then we had our other sales and marketing and ticket office people here across the street from the stadium. So to be able to get them under one roof will be outstanding.
And by the way, the beautiful facility with lakes and rolling hills, and he's very poetic in describing it, that's where Mike Zimmer is going to lock down these athletes and make them better. So they ain't going to see it. They're not. You're not. Right. They may see some of it. Right. They're not going to see a lot.
But one thing, but the interesting thing about that, the 40 acres is where our practice facility will be. But we have another 160 acres that we're going to develop, where we'll have mixed-use housing, restaurants, hotels, a conference center, retreat centers, and we really want to bring in the community. We're going to have Friday night football games, high school football games. We're going to call it Skull Night, and also give young broadcast individuals an opportunity to film and be interactive in those games.
My sense also, without reading about it, is if Twin Cities Orthopedic is involved, there will be some notion of sports medicine advancement. Absolutely. And some treat, and you got acreage to be able to experiment on that too.
Right. So it's good. Yeah. So we're excited. Yeah. They were a perfect partner, and we're just excited to really develop it, and hopefully it'll be the kind of prototype for going forward in the National Football League.
Speaking of partnerships, everybody talks about public-private partnerships, and not too many people really understand what it means other than a vehicle to get more public money. Your case, not the case. You do have a pretty interesting mix. You've got 350 or so from the state and 150 or so from the city. You take a substantial risk, you meaning the team and private, but the perspective of corporations between U.S. Bank and their published $220 million deal and TCO and some of your other partners, you're blessed with having a very vibrant and rich corporate community in Minnesota, but you've also taken advantage of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have, I think it's 19 Fortune 500 companies here in the Twin Cities area. A lot of also just excellent non-public companies like a Cargill. But you're right. But as you know better than anyone, these companies don't put their name on brands that aren't structured and handle their business accordingly. So it took a lot of time and energy these last couple of years to make sure that we actually had something to bring to the table, to build our brand, to build the stadium, to build our practice facility, and also to build a good football team, and then just develop an environment around the Minnesota Vikings that really, when people hear that name, it becomes synonymous with class and grace and style, and really building a best-in-class environment. So we've been fortunate to be able to do that.
That's a very important point from a business perspective for our audience. You can identify a corporate headquarter and say that's in this city, and then you assume it's going to be one meeting and you sign on the dotted line because the corporate CEO plays golf with the owner of the team, and that's it. This is rigorous. It is financial. It is legal. It is very complicated. And U.S. Bank might have been an obvious first meeting, but that in no way meant it was going to get the deal done, just like Lucas Oil in Indy or AT&T in Arlington and Dallas. These are very complicated transactions.
Every one of these relationships, first of all, starts with a relationship. You have to have a personal relationship, but they stand on their own. And so you need to develop a personal relationship, a business relationship, and it can't just be an environment where we go to a meeting and say, hey, this is how you all are going to benefit us. We need to make sure we spend the time to say that the door swings both ways, that this is how you think we can benefit the Minnesota Vikings, but vice versa. This is how we think we can be a benefit to their brand. And that's why it's really important that we keep our brand clean, build a great football team, build a great business, and also be great community partners and really help all of these wonderful companies. I'm just so excited to say we have all this business here in the Twin Cities, and most of the business that we do here is in the Twin Cities. And I think what it's doing is exposing people outside of the Twin Cities of how valuable this market is and how rich this market is.
Let's go way outside. Forbes came up with, and it's interesting because these numbers are always in some ways made up, but there's a good range. And Forbes, you're 18th in the NFL as far as value today. It'll no doubt rise after the stadium opens. But of all of the 50 international sports franchises, the Vikings are 39th on the list of their value, 1.6 billion. But it is interesting to know how international the Vikings brand has become and will become.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we talk about. I mean, it's interesting. We have one in particular, but we have a couple fans that fly in from the UK for our home games. And so I just think the
Zero Accounting Software presents Small Business Challenge. Welcome to our 30-second podcast. Ollie here, and with me today is Mike the Mediator, expert in effective communication.
Yeah, I feel the way that you talk about me is a true reflection of how I see myself.
Oh, okay. So what's the best way to talk with your accountant or bookkeeper?
Oh, use Zero. Share your financial information easily so you're on the same page.
Oh, beautiful.
Let's hug it out.
Connect your business at xero.com.
nature of our brand and the uniqueness of the colors and also the design of the uniforms and because of the international roots it has, there are some people who have followed it. But and we were fortunate a couple of years ago to play in the UK against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I was really
how'd that game turn out?
It was outstanding. One, we won the football game. People stayed healthy, but I was really it just reiterated. I knew it was this way, but to be able to see the magnitude of Minnesota Vikings fans around the world was really refreshing. So,
are you a pioneer for, Roger Goodell challenged his staff to deliver $25 billion annually by the end of this labor agreement, which is an interesting challenge. But so international revenue on the horizon. Are we close to looking at Real Madrid just got that $1.6 billion kit deal for 10 years?
Right.
Are we looking at international jerseys? Are we looking what kind of international revenue streams do we see?
I mean, I just think the opportunity for growth is amazing from an international standpoint. Whether it's actually from a tangible, uniform related standpoint, or if it's more so from a media rights standpoint. But I think what's happening, and we constantly challenge our staff on a daily basis, that we really have to look, yes, we have to take care of our Minnesota market, and then we have to take care of the surrounding states, and then we look at our fans on a national basis, but also, this is a global game. And what are the creative ways that we can pull in fans that who may not have a chance to come here? I heard a stat recently that only 4% of the fans around the world that call themselves Vikings fans will ever come to this building. Because you think about it, if we're sold out, your season ticket holders, typically we have recurring business. But one of the things that we're focusing on here at the Vikings is the fan who lives in the UK or who lives in Paris or who lives in Sweden or Denmark
I was going
or
to say
whatever the case may
Scandinavian
be.
affinity would be an interesting
Absolutely.
thing to look at.
That they get the same feel that when they see our Vikings brand, that when they follow us on Vikings.com, that they get a same feel as the person who actually lives here in the Twin Cities that comes to every home game.
It is interesting that it used to be a lot of the teams wanted to be last in for all of these games across the pond, and now Jaguars, Rams, others want to be first in.
Right. I just think, and again, you look where we're going to play in Mexico City this year. I mean, there's an entire potential opportunity, just the way the world is going. In China, I mean, there's just some unique opportunities. So it's exciting, as I said, to have owners like we do have who are on the forefront of looking to grow the game, and it's not only from a business standpoint. It's just from a goodness standpoint. This is an excellent game. It's football is a team building game. It's a character building game. I have a son who's going to be a senior in high school this year who's a football player, and I'm just excited that he played as a kid and in high school, and it looks like he's going to have a chance to play at the college level. So, and I just look the way it's helped him to mature and the work ethic that associated with it. So I think it's the greatest game on the planet right now. We need to spread it.
Did you hear that, agents? His kid's going to be playing at the college level. Be very careful.
Right.
Be careful about that. So, just a couple more on competitiveness. You were, I know people don't want to think about it, but you were a chip shot field goal away from the next round of the playoffs last year, and you're entering the first game of the world-class stadium on September 11th. How do you manage expectations?
I mean, I just think part of the growth process. There may be some people who don't want to talk about how close we were last year, but I think it's good to refresh and reflect upon that we were close. But as just like every business relationship, every season stands on itself. There's no guarantee that we'll win X number of games this year. I know one thing: Coach Zimmer is an excellent coach. He's tough. He's demanding. He keeps the player's mind in a positive space. Rick Spielman has brought in great talent. I'm excited about this season to see the young folks have an opportunity to grow, and I think we'll do extremely well. So there are other factors from injuries and all those things that go into play, but it's really exciting not only to see the organization excited, but to see this community. This community here is really excited about the Minnesota Vikings and about this new stadium.
And to see a guy who grew up as a lawyer. He was a partner in a law firm. So inherently there is a limit on his enthusiasm. Not today. He's very